Hello, everybody. Today we're going to be interviewing one of our lead manufacturers with Doug Thorley headers. I'm here with Jamie. How's it going today, Jamie?
Doing good. How about you, Caesar?
Oh, it's going great, man. I'm excited to talk
Awesome.
about Doug Thorley's headers. Today we're going to be talking about Doug Thorley's headers and, some misconceptions, some things that people may not know about. I know that you're very in and out with the company. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to say really quickly just to get it over with.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a long and winding trail on how this all happened, but
Yeah.
in around 2002, the company that I worked for, which was Summit Industries, purchased Doug Thorley Headers. At the time, it was Doug's Headers, and it was the original company. But what happened was Doug Thorley and Betty Thorley got a divorce, and in a nutshell, she pretty much won the business. Um, Fast forward a couple years, Betty passed away, and that's kind of like where Summit Industries stepped in and bought the company. So that means that all the original designs, all the original prototypes were in our possession as Summit Industries. And a lot of the legacy items that we still make today, they are the original Doug Thorley headers. And I'm talking about the company that started in 1958.
Yeah, and a lot of people have that misconception. I know a lot of companies they get compared to us, we get compared to them. Another misconception people have is that our company, our headers are made in uh other countries in North America. We just want to make sure that it's clear that everything we make is here in America. It's made in California. We make sure that everything's made in the US, manufactured in the US, and we plan to keep it that way for a really long time, honestly, because we just love American products. We love American people. We do it for the American people, and it's just something we value and will continue to value as we make our headers.
Yes, 100%. It's still they're made in America, SoCal, Fontana, California. And just as a side note, a lot of the people that are manufacturing them now to this day, some of us have 20 to 30 years experience manufacturing the same items that your customer can buy today. They're made the same way by the same people. And combined, this group of people that we work with have well over 100 years of experience doing this combined.
Oh yeah. And I love getting that insight from the group of people that we work with. Just you especially, you come in with a lot of insight behind the company. We like to make sure that we're well informed and not ignoring the past that we have and just moving forward and innovating with everything we do. So really quickly, what you want to go over some of the you kind of touched on the history of the Doug Thorley, but what about the designs of Doug Thorley headers? How has that changed with that transition, and how are we manufacturing them now compared to back then?
That's a good question. Doug Thorley Headers has its the background is basically drag racing.
Mhm.
That's what Doug was doing in the mid 50s to late 50s. He's seen a calling for people that needed custom headers because oftentimes with drag cars, things you can't buy headers off the shelf. So what he was doing at that time was making custom headers out of his garage in Commerce, California. Still SoCal, by the way. So that was his business for many years, but because of a turn of events, whether it be the gas crunch or just the overall price of fuel or just a calling in a certain market, he decided to start making headers for trucks and RVs. And in order for those to survive, because that's a different environment than drag racing would be, he made them out of really thick gauge material, and it's 14 gauge 083
Mhm.
wall. So they're built to last, and they're built to stand up to the rigors of towing and taking your RV across the country. So that's kind of the direction that he went with that. And that's kind of the way that they're still produced today with that in mind. Just heavy duty, lifetime warranty, and just overall, just something that's going to last on your vehicle for the life of that vehicle.
Absolutely. And we want to make sure that every header is made with love, made with integrity, because we feel like that reflects our company whenever we produce a header. So I just want, make sure that every header comes with, that love that Doug had for those headers, the love that we continue to show with all our headers. And it's just something that we take really big pride in to make sure that everyone's satisfied with these purchases whenever they do it. I know you're talking about four wheelers getting those hands on some of those headers. I know we've gained an influx of off-road vehicles that people are enjoying the
Right.
headers on. A lot of people are enjoying it. We got a lot of GX 470s that are loving those headers. We know a lot of people who love those headers, put them on every day. We get people every day asking us about them. So like in your words, what does that mean to you, knowing that we have these groups of people coming into Doug Thorley's headers and like embracing what we're becoming?
Well, it's the way that I view this whole culture, the car culture is there's different you have different type of enthusiasts. You have people that like drag racing, you have people that like road racing, off-roading, and the idea is to kind of cater to all of those markets, and you want to do it in a way that you're going to be serving everybody's individual needs. So you mentioned the GX 470. Uh, the reason why all those designs came about is because there was a major flaw in Toyota's designs on their stock manifolds, and they crack. And not just one or two here and there; they all crack. The factory replacements on those is around $600 or so, and or more. And so what we kind of decided to do was build something better, build a better mousetrap. We built them out of stainless steel. We built them out of steel thick gauge 083, so that these people that are involved in this little cult, that all these Land Cruisers and the GXs can really put something on their vehicle that they love and want to use, but just to have it last and not have to deal with exhaust leaks and failing smog checks and all of that.
Exactly. And I understand people when they get frustrated with their headers when they get a brand new set and then they immediately notice that they see a crack within the next 6 months. And that's something that we take into consideration whenever we make our set of headers. Uh, Another thing I wanted to touch on are how does the research go behind each of those headers that we make for each of those vehicles? I know that we don't subjugate to one group of people because we go ahead and we touch on the off-road people, we touch on the C10 people. We go ahead and try to satisfy everybody. So what kind of research goes into that to know what kind of vehicles we want to produce?
Well, since I am an enthusiast myself, um, I pretty much perused a lot of forums and kind of felt out where the niche markets might be and kind of attacked it from that angle. So if we've seen a need in the market when there's no other competitors out there, that's where we sort of like focused all of our attention on. And I actually went on these forums and talked to people face to face, manufacturer to enthusiast, and I think we got a lot of mileage out of that. People were able to ask direct questions, and so that's pretty much how it would start. Look for a niche, go ahead and try to satisfy the mainstream as well. But um, just yeah, so from a research standpoint, that's where it starts. Um, it goes much more beyond that. It's tube size selection, it's long tube, short tube, tri-Y, 4-into-1. There's a lot more that goes into it, but it's just based on the vehicle need. So that's kind of like the way that we approached it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. As somebody who comes as a car person, I feel like that's kind of lost whenever you go into business. I feel a lot of people kind of want to cater to the masses, and then they kind of leave these group of niche groups that kind of want well, what about us? What are we gonna do with our groups of vehicles? So it's very nice to know that even when we produce stuff, we're still interacting with these customers, whether that be on forums, through Facebook groups, through just talking. We attend a lot of shows where we just go and we talk to people, and we like to hear what people say on the comments of our videos on Facebook messages. We just love interacting with customers and just making sure that it's being heard whenever somebody requests, like, hey, what if you guys started producing headers for this vehicle that I own? So it's just nice knowing that we have this connection with these group of people that, they feel like they're being heard whenever they talk to us.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I just as a little story going back to that, I was approached by people that have smart cars. So we decided to do a smart car exhaust, and it was a big hit. The people were lining up to buy those, and you know we sold hundreds of them. But it just makes me happy that even people that own smart cars, they deserve performance, and they deserve to get some performance parts for their vehicle.
Oh yeah, everybody deserves to have, that feeling of having something designed for them and knowing that they're getting the best for their vehicle, having performance being made for their vehicle and upping their so and so game, more to
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
So moving on, did you know what are some of the benefits to torque and horsepower whenever we use these headers? I know that's a big ask for these people. We know that people ask that every day. What are some of the benefits that go on whenever I add these headers? Because some people get a little bit, antsy. They don't know if, well, I want to pull the trigger and buy a set of headers, but I don't necessarily know what I'm going to get in return for these headers. Are they just some shiny thing that I'm going to put on my vehicle and just forget about? What are some of the benefits that come with it?
Right. So um, the version of the header the customer would be getting was already thought out, and it's kind of made for their application. So the benefits of headers overall, and this sounds kind of like counterintuitive, but they actually increase gas mileage. And the misconception out there is a lot of people think that, oh, I'm going to put a performance part on my car, I'm going to lose a little gas mileage, but it's that is just not true. You actually gain gas mileage. And so with a tri-Y in particular, if you own a heavier vehicle like a truck or an RV and you're towing with that, the tri-Y header is designed to give you optimal torque and a usable power range. So if you're towing and you're pulling a grade or something and you're at 2,300 RPM, um, where that header makes the maximum torque is right in that range. So you're getting the benefit of that header where you really need it. It's not at 6,000 RPM and it's not at 1,000 RPM. It's right in the middle where you need it.
Right in the sweet spot.
Right. So you're gonna
Absolutely.
you're gonna realize a MPG gain of 2 to 3 miles per gallon, and that's huge when you're towing or when you're on a trip with your RV.
Yeah, and some people they may not know that they get misconstrued because there is a lot of false information when it comes with headers. A lot of stuff that carries over from other companies kind of get associated with us, and so I just want to go over really quickly what are some of the differences between our headers and other headers that other people are producing. What makes our headers so much different compared to other competitors?
Well, we already mentioned the fact that your headers are made in the U.S. They're made from 14 gauge tubing, where the pretty much the market standard when it comes to headers is 16 gauge, which is far thinner. It's 0.65 thousandths wall. Your headers are 0.83 wall. So you have the durability factor there. Um, the other benefits are what was involved with the research and development in terms of fitment. One of the big emphasis when you're designing anything, but especially headers, because there's so many components under the hood that can get in the way. So we always try to design headers, even if there's a motor mount that's sagging a little bit and the component might get closer because of that fact, we try to take that into account. We take into account the ease of installation because I understand, again, as an enthusiast, some guys or gals they're going to be putting these on in their driveway or in their garage, and we want to make it simple for them. We want to make it a good experience. There's been many times at trade shows where I've heard people, younger kids, come up to me and they say, "Hey, me and my dad put these on in the garage when I was 8." They have fond memories about it. So that's pretty much the main focus. Power is up there. Power gains are up there, but also ease of installation, and you're just trying to think of every possible scenario that these guys can run into, every possible pitfall, and you try to eliminate that. And that even carries through to the way that the instructions are written. They're written in plain English. The steps are in the correct order. If people decide to read the instructions, but so we try to make it easy on them. They're on their back in their garage.
Absolutely. I mean, the last thing I want to get into whenever I open a new piece of equipment for my vehicle is, this big instruction manual where it's like, well, I don't even know where to start. Like, and then it just becomes a chore rather than enjoyment out of adding this improvement to your vehicle. It's sort of like you're taking the fun out of it.
Right,
And having that easy installment just makes it so much easier. So yeah,
right,
that is something that a lot of people want, and I feel like we try our hardest to make sure that we get that simplicity settled through and making sure that everybody's happy whenever they do it. I love the fact that you're talking about that person walking up to you in the show just talking about, "Hey, I
yeah,
put these on with my dad." Like
yeah.
that's
It's
something that
happened more than
people
once. Yeah,
yeah, and it's always great to hear these stories about people who are excited about Doug Foley's headers and like, hey, I make memories with these headers.
yeah.
I'm doing all these sorts of stuff with these headers, and that's just something it's irreplaceable in my
Right.
opinion. No price that can be put on that. So just to touch up on that and kind of wrap it up a little bit, what are some of the insurances that we kind of do on these headers? Like what measures do we take to make sure that these headers don't the one of the main problems are cracks and exhaust leaks. I know we kind of go over it a little bit on our own, but what are some of the measures that we do? I know we do ceramic coating on these headers. So what does that kind of do for these headers?
The ceramic coating it's a thermal barrier coating, and it does what it does is multi-fold. It protects the substrate material from corrosion like rust. So that's number one. And number two is since we call it a thermal barrier coating, it keeps the heat on the inside of the tube instead of just dissipating into the engine bay. Because if you know anything about cars, you know that the colder the intake charge is, that's the air that's coming into the engine, the better the performance. From a manufacturing standpoint, there are measures that are taken to ensure quality, that I personally feel are above and beyond the everybody else. Where every header that leaves that facility has been leak checked. We have a special technique that we use to make sure that you spent 4 hours installing these things, and then you discover there's a hole in the header. That's something that I'm not a real big fan of, and I'm sure the customer wouldn't be either.
Oh yeah, I can't
every
name a
every
person
part
who
that
loves
leaves
that.
there, yeah, they get tested before they leave.
Yeah, and it's the little things that we do to make sure that all the headers come out with quality in mind. We want to make sure that everybody, whoever receives a set of headers, just like the last one we sent out. We don't want to send one out that, you know, doesn't work and uh, the next person has to worry about it. But we make sure that every header's checked out. We try to make sure every set of headers is checked before they're even packaged. We make sure that there's no scratches on the headers. We make sure that there's no damage that may have incurred with these headers. Every header is packaged with love. I've been there. I've packaged some headers myself, and we always make sure that each header is handled with love. I've never
Yeah,
met somebody who takes more care of their headers than
that's great.
some
Yeah,
Doug Thorley headers workers.
it's got to be like Christmas morning, man. You open that
Oh
box up and
yeah.
you're like, oh,
Oh yeah. And I love that feeling. And it's awesome that we can replicate that with our headers. So just moving on to our next subject, what are some of the things we can look forward to with Doug Thorley headers?
well, Doug Thorley, in my opinion, um, should never rest on its laurels. You can't really rely on like the legacy products, as I like to call them, the older designs. So you have to constantly be innovating. And we kind of touched on it earlier about trying to find niches, but also you want to focus on things that are very popular right now with resto mods and engine swaps. So we already know it's very popular to swap a LS1 or LS Chevy engine into an older vehicle because it's a solid platform. It's very dependable. So that market's kind of taken care of. But there's a new generation of Chevy engine called the LT, which is very similar. And so it's my feeling that that is something that we need to really focus on. We need to go back. We need to do all the muscle car swaps, all the C10 truck swaps, the Tri-5 Chevy swaps, and just kind of like expand on that market because
Yeah.
there's other markets that you guys have already pretty much got covered, like the Toyota market, for instance. That's quite successful.
Yeah, I know
So we just try to build.
A lot of our Yoda fans are real excited about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
headers
yeah,
that they're
yeah.
receiving. We're constantly receiving people asking us when are we gonna get headers for their vehicles, and we take every vehicle into consideration. Obviously, we have an email set out where people can contact us to let us know, hey, when are these vehicle gonna receive headers? And we want to emphasize that we try our hardest to make sure that every set that is requested is put into this system where we look on and we try to see and we were like, hey, this group of people really wants these headers and we want to satisfy them because who else is going to do it?
Right. Yeah, and that's a pretty good approach to, it's sometimes it doesn't make sense. Somebody's asking you for headers, but they have like a small block Ford and a AMC Gremlin. It doesn't make sense. But every once in a while you get a little gem, and you're like, oh yeah, we should probably do that. And there was one instance where there's a lot. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but there's a LS engine that comes factory and like your Malibus and your SSs, but it's a transverse mount, meaning it's a front wheel drive. And doing that design turned out to be one of the greatest things ever because people are clamoring for those. There's like a, there's a, um, another that's another situation where there's a cult following, and that's the GHY 340. You know, um, so it's pretty interesting to go out there and
It's exciting stuff. It's stuff that people should get excited for because m- sooner or later we're gonna get headers for your vehicle as well. Whatever you're requesting, if we don't already make them, of course. We want to make sure that everybody's happy and satisfied. So just really quickly, what are some messages you want to say to people who are thinking about getting into Doug Thorley's headers and they're kind of hesitant and what are some things you want to just tell them? Just let them know.
I would just as a warning, I would say that you in this day and age, you get parts from Amazon um, or other websites, and the price is really it's appealing. But there's a lot of parts that could be potential knockoffs, and you might be thinking that they do the same job, but a lot of these parts they're made out of inferior materials. They're made overseas. They're going to last you 3 years maybe, even less if you live in a harsh climate where it snows a lot. So I would just be very leery of that. And it's just one of those things where you get what you pay for. So
Absolutely.
common sense says, if you pay for something like a Doug Thorley header, already knowing that it's a built in the USA product, it's built by professionals with years of experience, then it's really just it's well worth the value to go that extra mile, save up a little more, and just get the good stuff. You don't want to be
Absolutely.
replacing these things again. You know,
Absolutely. We try to emphasize that we want this to be a one-time purchase. We want this people to, buy the headers, be satisfied with their headers, and then go on their merry way and just enjoy them.
right?
Enjoy them and make sure that, they last long. We want these people to go on years with the same set of headers without having to worry about these exhaust leaks or corrosion or cracks in their headers.
Yeah. Another thing that I used to hear a lot from customers is I still have the same headers I bought in the 80s on my truck. That's
Oh
that's
yeah.
kind of cool. It's like, it's maybe it's not a great business model. You don't have the opportunity to sell this individual another set of headers, but at the same time, you get the gratification of knowing, these headers have made it that far. You know,
Absolutely. I've attended car shows. I know I went to see 10 Nationals not too long ago and I saw a pair of old Duck Dolly's headers and I was like, "Hey, like this is really cool. Did you do you ever think about replacing them?" They're like, "No, I love these set of headers. I wish they were still around."
yeah,
And then I go ahead and I let them know, "Hey,
yeah,
they are around.
yeah,
Duck Dolly's headers is still up and going." They're like, "Really?" That's a common misconception that we have is that a lot of people don't even know that we're still around and we're still kicking, that we're doing 60 years, going on 60 years,
yeah,
doing the same thing that we've always done. And that's
right,
uh, giving to these people this community that we love, that we cherish, that we love so much that, hey, we're going to make sure that you get satisfied with your set of headers.
right. So
All right.
it was always fun to at a trade show we'd have our actual displays, but it was always fun to keep headers like one header on the ground on the floor so that you can actually hand it to the customer and you don't say anything to them, but when they get it in their hands, they feel the heft of the header and then they know that they're dealing with a good product. That's the downfall of selling things on the online. But to me, it's really important to put that part in somebody's hands and let them know what they're dealing with and what they're getting for their money.
And what they're getting is quality.
That's right. Always.
All right. Well, just to wrap things up, it was nice having you on. We really enjoyed talking to you about Duck Dolly's headers. It was great talking to you, Jamie. I want to thank you for coming on, having a great time.
No worries, no problem.
Hopefully in the future we can have you on again. Was there anything else you wanted to say right before we wrap things up?
No, that's it. Just carry on. Keep doing it.
Absolutely. That's a nice motto to have. Well, I want to thank everyone for listening to this little interview that we decided to put on for you guys. Let us know if you want to know any other people you want us to interview. If you want to know anything else in the future, we'd love to do this again, touch upon some things. But other than that, thank you guys for listening, and we'll talk to you another day.